Mini Bull Design, and today I'm going to do a Trike video on the kingpins, front spindles, and such. Now, this stumbles a lot of people. This looks really complicated. It's not. It's a series of small projects that all add up into one big project, which looks overwhelming, but it's not. So let me show you a couple of things right up front that you may not know, and I didn't know. I learned it from Atomic Zombie. So let's get started. Okay, now the front spindle, or front kingpin, is made from the neck off of the fork of a bicycle. You've got the fork, and then you've got the part that goes up inside the neck tube. That's this part, and then there's a nut on it, gooseneck up here, and the handlebars. So this is the part that goes inside of the neck on the bicycle, right up front. Frame bolts on right here. Okay, when you take the nuts off, take the handlebars off, take the gooseneck out, and get this out, it's got the fork welded on it right here, like this. Okay. What you do is you go down about a ½ inch and lop it off. So you've got a ½ inch from this bearing race out. So lop it off and get rid of the fork. Now, once you get that, put it in the vise and take your angle grinder and grind off any excess metal. It doesn't have to be round. It doesn't have to be much of anything. Just get it. Try to get a flat surface on the bottom and get the extra garbage off of it so it looks halfway decent. You can drive this race right off, put it in the vise and take a screwdriver and hammer and drive this race off and get it out of your way and then grind here to get it the right shape without hitting the race. Okay. Now, here's the thing that I want to tell you because it could be catastrophic if you don't know this. Something you get from Mini Bull Design for free. Okay. When you get this bottom all ground off, if you look at it closely, there may or may not be a seam right where my fingernail is. Now, I've taken a picture of this and blown it up. So let's take a look at the picture and look at. Okay, that shoulder is this tube, and the other half of it is this piece of metal that you ground down flat. They're not welded together. They're two separate pieces, and this is just a good press fit onto this tube. Okay. Now, if you put everything on there and put this on the bike, when you go to tighten up these nuts, it's going to be pulling on this tube against this race. And if you just put it together the way it is right here, it may pull the tube right out of the race, and the tube will come right off, and the wheel will fall off. Haven't had that happen, but I've had it move enough so they loosened up, and yeah, I tightened them up, and they loosened back up again. Well, I just kept pulling on it. I didn't go far enough to pull it out, but I went far enough so it was a little scary. Anyway, so the first thing you want to do is, right where this seam is weld all the way around it. And that'll make it one solid piece. Then grind that off flat, and you can weld your spindle mount onto that. Okay, now this is all done, and I apologize, the welds on this are absolutely terrible. This isn't the finished product. I'm going to grind those welds all back and redo them and straighten this all out when I get done. But for show and tell, it'll do just fine. Okay, I've got a picture of this, so let's look at the picture so you have some idea of what you're looking at. Okay, now this here is simply this, same thing, but it's got a block welded on it. Okay, now this block I'm using is 3/8 by 1.25 inches. That's bigger than it needs to be, but it's pretty beefy. But before you can really do too much of this, you have to decide what you're going to use for hubs on your front wheels. Because your front wheels are only supported on one side, so you have to have a heavier hub, unlike on a bicycle where they're supported on both sides. So you're going to have to get some hubs and spoke them into your 20-inch wheels. And whatever the center hole in the bearing in those hubs is, that's what size your axle will be. Okay, now this is worth noting. I got my hubs from Chopper US. And that was the cheapest place I could find. They're heavy steel hubs with sealed ball bearings in them. But, and this is something you want to take into account, they all come, all of those hubs come with bearings that take a 15 millimeter shaft. Well, I thought, no big deal, I'll just buy them, pick up a couple of 15 millimeter bolts, drill a 15 millimeter hole in this block, slide them through, weld them, put the hub on, put some washers on it to space it out so it doesn't hit on the race. You know, no big deal. Screw the nut on, cut off the end of the bolt, whatever is extra. What could be easier? Okay. Turns out you can't buy 15 millimeter bolts. I shouldn't say you can't buy them. I have never been able to find any 15 millimeter bolts. You can buy 14, but you can't buy 15. I think you can buy 16 and 14, but I don't seem to be able to find any 15 millimeter bolts. So if you're going to buy hubs, find out what size axle they have and make sure you can get a bolt that size ahead of time before you order the hubs. Because if you don't, you won't have any way to make an axle for it other than the way I did it, was I bought some steel and I have a machine shop and I turned these 15 millimeter axles out of steel. Not a fun project. Anyway, that's the reason why these are on here. These were handmade by me. Would have been way ahead of the game if it would have been a 14 millimeter axle and I could have got a 14 millimeter bolt, cut the head off of it, drilled a 14 millimeter hole, just slid it out where I wanted it. So when I put the hub on, there's maybe a half a thread underneath the bearings, and then welded it in, put it on, put the nut on, cut off the extra. Be very simple. Okay, that having been said, once you find out what you're going to do for hubs and get your bolt, take this block before you even weld it on and drill a hole, cut the head off your bolt, slide it through, get it the right distance so that when you put the nut on, it will capture the hub but won't crush the bearings, just comes up solid. And then weld it in. Once you've got it all welded in, take your block and put your spindle in place with bearings and level your frame. And you want this block to be straight up and down. And if you've got the axle in there, it'll even be easier to judge it so that your wheel is not jinked one way or the other. You want this level when the frame is all level. Get it there as close as you can and tack weld it on the front and the back on the two narrow sides. Don't weld it in completely. Just weld it here and here. The reason for that is when you get all done, put it back up into place. If it isn't exactly where you want it, if it moved when you welded it or whatever, you can put a wrench on it and you can bend it into place because you just welded front and back. Once you get it exactly where you want it, then you can weld it all the way across the front and weld it all the way across the back. Now Atomic Zombie welds in this hole in the bottom. I don't do that. You can if you want to. You can weld, chip your slag, weld, you can fill it in. I just weld on each side of the hole, and I just weld on each side of the hole in the back and all the way across on the front. But anyway, once you have that, then the main spindle with the wheel on it is all set. And the two next things you've got to do, I put it on and with the wheel on it and turn it as far as I wanted the wheel to go until the tire on this side with the tie rod on. I didn't do it until I put in the tie rod. Just cleared the seat. And then I welded a 1/4 by 1/2 bar right on and bent it so it hits on the axle so it can't go any further. Now for the steering arms, I simply took a piece of 3/4 by 1/4 and heated it up and twisted it 90 degrees, welded it on here, put it right up in place, got everything I wanted it, then heated it and bent it so I could get my Ackerman's steering principle. So there was a line right through it, right back to the rear hub, which I covered earlier. And that's basically three or four small steps. But the big thing is find out what you're going to use for a hub and get an axle for it that's long enough and a good nylon lock nut and washer before you do anything else. And make sure you can get the bolt before you buy the hub. That's my impression of the whole thing. Okay, I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design. Get out and hike, take a friend. Enjoy the great outdoors, and more important than anything, try to have some fun today, and try to have a really great day. Bye-bye.